Hi, I'm Perry Atkinson, General Manager here at theDove. Hey, check out our other videos and check out our website at thedove.us. Welcome to Focus Today. I'm your host, Perry Atkinson. Delighted and always honored to have back with us today Jordan Sekulow. He's the Executive Director of the American Center for Law and Justice. And boy, he and his organization, they do a great job. One of the great hawk companies and watchdogs there on all the key issues. Jordan, good to see you, my friend. How you doing, bud?
Thanks, Perry. I'm good.
Hey, listen, well, what did you think of the election? Quickly, your thoughts on the election.
I think it's an exciting time for conservatives. There were a lot of good conservative candidates. I don't look at them like Republican, Democrat, but whether or not they're going to be people that come to Washington really fighting for what they said they would do. And I think we saw a lot of candidates like that. We have to be realistic in our expectations for at least the next 2 years. We've got a president in office who's got the veto power, but it's a huge improvement, and it shows conservatives can win elections. That whole idea, which media loves to kind of kill off conservatives every election cycle. They don't win every single race and don't win all the swing races. This time it showed, conservatism's here to stay, and it's actually the message is getting to younger people and different demographic groups, which is very important.
All right, so won't take over until January. Are you confident that this incoming crowd will have the tenacity to get things done, but most importantly, to finish some of the investigations on the Obama scandals? I'm thinking the IRS, Benghazi, maybe the Obamacare with the president trying to change it after it's in office. Do you think they will go for it?
I do think we're going to see a renewed kind of effort. The U.S. Senate, because it's been in the control of Harry Reid and really Obama allies, has never fully investigated those scandals you just talked about, also Fast and Furious. And we just got a document dump on Fast and Furious from the Department of Justice on the election night. It's a typical Obama administration. Last week, they dumped 60,000 plus pages of documents. Some of those have come out with Eric Holder, the outgoing U.S. Attorney General, who was saying some pretty nasty things I can't repeat here, about Republican members of Congress who were investigating Fast and Furious, the gun running issue. You look also, of course, the IRS and then Benghazi. Those have never really been flushed out by the United States Senate. And the question we're kind of in right now is what will get done before the new Congress in January? And will Republicans be tough enough when they're still in the minority, as they are right now, to stop major actions by the administration? And then, of course, President Obama's threat that he's going to do everything by executive action.
Well, it looks like he's going to do something with immigration, obviously. Over the weekend, I see where the vice president got snapped back a little bit.
Right.
What's that tell you? Doesn't that tell you that he's going to do something no matter what anybody else thinks?
It shows me that he's determined, right? I mean, he's not even willing to try and negotiate. I think what he's thinking is this, and this is President Obama we're talking about. I'll take the executive action. I'm going to go as far as I can with that. That means acting on his own as President of the United States and trying to say that it's really about interpretation of the law. It's not a new law. He's not legislating. And then we'll see what Congress does. And maybe I'll sign a congressional act, but I'm not going to wait for that anymore. So I'm going to go do my thing. And that's why I think when Vice President Biden reportedly tried to kind of break in and say, okay, how long do Republicans think they need to get something comprehensive through after the new Congress? And he shut that down. He said, I've been waiting already during my administration, so that's not going to happen. So I really do believe he's going to take that action on immigration. I think it could backfire substantially. People, he talks a lot about how, well, it was state elections and it was local elections, and he was elected nationally. The truth is, though, that these candidates who won against a national agenda, the Obama agenda. And one of those issues was immigration, and people kind of all across the country agreed with this idea that they don't want to see immigration done the way he has asked for it to be.
All right, so what can the Republicans really do in this lame duck session? I mean, if he's going to go for some kind of executive order, what can they do?
Well, they filed lawsuits in the past against President Obama's executive actions, one on appointments, and they've lost. The Obama administration has lost. So the Congress has been able to win in court. And that was, again, the House of Representatives, Perry, acting on their own. With the U.S. Senate now, President Obama doesn't have a blank check. He also doesn't have Harry Reid there to stonewall for him, to kind of say, we're not going to put any legislation on your desk. So President Obama hasn't had to veto things because it hasn't gotten to his desk. Now there's a real likelihood that comprehensive legislation, reform legislation, and I think if Republicans are smart, what they'll do is put forward kind of the two different types. There'll be legislation that's smart, comprehensive, and very difficult that won't be very difficult for President Obama not to sign. Fixes to some of the huge problems in the Affordable Care Act, not to save the Affordable Care Act, but so we're not punishing business owners, like the hours per week before you become a full-time employee for purposes of the law, where people have been losing hours at work. And then there's the big fixes. There's the tougher fights, like getting rid of Obamacare. Maybe the Supreme Court's going to do that. We haven't talked about that yet. It's possible the Supreme Court may do that with this new case that's there, but I never want to put too much weight on those cases.
Wow. Have you ever seen Harry Reid so quiet?
No, it's a very welcome sign. You know, for those of us in Washington, D.C., it's been a long time since the idea that conservatives are going to have a real seat at the table in Washington. Of course, you know, through media and through talking to people and their constituents in the House of Representatives, there was that idea. But the kind of the shift that's going to happen, the cultural shift that's going to happen here in Washington, just on Capitol Hill, it's not just the U.S. senators who got elected or the members of the House. It's the staff behind them. And in the Senate, that's a lot of people, very high level, very qualified people who will now be working on conservative investigations into the scandals we talked about. They will be supporting law that's good law with great staffs. And you know, so for me, that's always a really important part of this story of these elections, these kind of change wave elections, that people don't always take home as much as the cultural shift. It's not just the 100 U.S. senators over there. It's their staffs of 30 and 40 people, including the committee staffs, who are real experts and can help when we're having debates, when we're putting forward legislation, and when we're in battle, which I think it's going to be for the next 2 years with the Obama administration.
Jordan, I realize nobody wants to impeach a president. I mean, it's got a lot of problems with it, but it appears that he may be in the mindset where he's just begging them to go for it. And do you think this incoming crop of conservatives will put the Constitution before politics if he continues to abuse powers?
I think they would, especially this immigration move. You know, that's what I think we're all going to have to look at closely. Sometimes he's talked up big executive actions, and when they've actually been done, they may have been wrong, but they were certainly not as extreme, not as great of a executive assertion of authority as it sounded like it was going to be. But if he does that, we can look at then, okay, how does the breakdown of Senate work? Assuming Alaska and then Louisiana, let's say Louisiana goes Republican in the runoff election, that would put Republicans at 54. Now for impeachment, you got to have 2/3. Now 2/3 means 67. So there'd have to be a number of Senate Democrats on board with that to move that way in the U.S. Senate. Does that mean the House can't do it? No. But ultimately, it takes both houses of Congress. So I think it'd be an uphill fight in the U.S. Senate ultimately. But we have to look. You know, these executive actions, and there's plenty of Democrats now. Remember, they're looking and they're not as loyal for these next 2 years to President Obama as they would have been if this was the first 2 years of his presidency. It's the last 2 years. He's on the way out. If you're a Senate Democrat, you either have 2, 4, or 6 years left to serve if you're coming in January, and so you're thinking towards the future. Being aligned with the president may not always be the best decision.
Politically, if the Republicans coming in continue investigating these scandals, in particular Benghazi, and especially with the mandate now that has been turned over in Congress, it appears that Hillary's in trouble.
Yeah, I mean, ultimately, a lot more discussion is going to go to that, Perry, too, is Hillary Clinton, her relationship with this administration, how much power she had as Secretary of State, the influence she had. She's tried to really distance herself. And I think for some issues, she's correct. I think she is more of a hawk than President Obama and tougher when it comes to taking military action against, for instance, a group like the Islamic State. I think she would have had a different strategy and handled that differently. At the same time, she was part of the administration, and these things happened on her watch, especially Benghazi. We still haven't really gotten full answers there, and we've got the guys who wrote the book who were there, the 13 Hours of Benghazi. I mean, all of that it puts up a very different narrative, tells a very different story than what Secretary of State Clinton said and what this White House has said. So, yeah, this doesn't help her either. But at the same time, it looks like she's still a major front runner on the Democrat side. Wow.
Well, Jordan, thanks for your time. I know you are really tight scheduled this day and every day.
Absolutely.
So thanks for what you guys do there at ACLJ.
Thanks,
and blessings to you, my friend.
Thank you.
All right, God bless. We'll be right back.